And welcome everybody to the 118th episode of the Fact Is podcast. We're your hosts, Dave Moses.
And I'm right.
Welcome. Apologies to everybody for last week. We obviously were not on. We had some. I'm just gonna say it. I was sick. I had to bail out. Unfortunately, I was not feeling the greatest. I had to make sure.
Weak sauce.
Put the health over this.
Weak sauce.
Weak sauce. It was weak sauce. But, what can I do about it? So, fun times. But anyway, so we did have a week off. We are back for the 118th episode, and we got our board back up.
The board is back.
Real quick, Ryan, love the title list. It is a beautiful time to be wearing that, of course, because
it's golf season.
Time, baby. Yes, sir. Love it. So,
quick question: is this a good time for us to say the board is back in town? The board is back in town. Anyway. The board is back in town.
I love you. We had a week off. Of course, there's a lot to catch up on. Everything from the Trump indictment to Tennessee to TikTok and many more. So, as you all can see, a couple of the way we're going to be going in line with our articles tonight, going to be Trump indictment, WSJ reporter arrested over in Russia. We'll talk about that. TikTok potentially getting banned. BRICS, some crazy developments there. Ukraine aid and the Nashville shooting, which was an absolute tragedy. Why? I mean, first off, it's a tragedy. It's horrible to go out there and to try to mindlessly kill people in the first place, but to kill innocent children who had quite literally nothing to do with this world. They're too innocent and pure especially at that age is just disgusting. So more to talk about coming up with that, but these are our topics that we're going to be discussing tonight, and can't wait to get into it with everybody. So Ryan, Stu, anything else y'all would like to talk about before we get started?
No, I think everything I want to talk about is right there on that board.
Stu, you good? Love it. All right, let's get started then. So let's talk about Trump charged with hush money scheme to boost 2016 election chances. So, article by Reuters, quick little 6-minute read. Former President Donald Trump was charged on Tuesday with 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in a historic case over allegations he orchestrated hush money payments to two women before the 2016 U.S. election to suppress publication of their sexual encounters with him. Actually, I didn't even know they went up to two women now. I thought it was just Stormy. Prosecutors in Manhattan accused Trump, the first sitting or former U.S. president to face criminal charges or of trying to conceal a violation of election laws during his successful 2016 campaign. Not guilty, Trump, 76, said when he was asked by the judge in the court how he pleaded. Wearing a dark blue suit with a red tie, Trump sat subdued with his hands folded at the defense table, flanked by his lawyers.
Hold on. He said, not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty. I am the most far thing from guilty that ever has been.
Ever.
I am not guilty.
The front runner in the race for the Republican nomination in 2024, Trump, responded with answers like yes when the judge asked him if he understood a right. At one point, the judge put his hand to his ear as if to prompt an answer. Prosecutor Chris Conroy said the defendant Donald J. Trump falsified New York business records in order to conceal an illegal conspiracy to undermine the integrity of the 2016 presidential election and other violations of election laws. While falsifying business records in New York on its own is a misdemeanor punishable by no more than 1 year in prison, it is elevated to a felony punishable by up to 4 years when done to advance or conceal another crime such as an election law violations. The two women in the case are adult film actress Stormy Daniels and former Playboy model Karen McDougal. Prosecutors.
How did you mess up McDougal?
I didn't. McDougal.
Come on, man. I understand some of the names we see on these things, but like
McDougal. I know.
On,
What do you want from me? Prosecutors during the arraignment said Trump made a series of social media posts, including one threatening death and destruction if he was charged. The judge asked the parties to please refrain from making statements that are likely to incite violence or civil unrest. On a cool and sunny early spring day in New York, Trump supporters and detractors before the arraignment were separated by barricades set up by police to try to keep order, though there were some confrontations. Trump said nothing as he entered the courtroom or when he left roughly an hour later. He flew home to Florida when he addressed family, friends, and supporters at his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach on Tuesday night, delivering a litany of grievances against investigators and prosecutors and rival politicians. He described the New York prosecution as election interference. I never thought anything like this could happen in America, Trump said. The only crime that I've committed has been to fearlessly defend our nation against those who seek to destroy it. Trump faces a separate criminal probe by a county prosecutor in Georgia into whether he unlawfully tried to overturn his 2020 election defeat in the state. He also faces two U.S. Justice Department investigations led by special counsel into attempts to overturn the 2020 election results and his handling of classified documents after leaving office. They should also talk to Biden about that if that is the case. They can't beat us at the ballot box, so they try to beat us through the wall. So there's a little bit more there, but I'm not going to go through the rest of it. Just, no huge deal. So if you want specifics, just make sure you get into the article. But basically, from my understanding, Trump's lawyer paid the women, and the Trump campaign basically refunded the lawyer or reimbursed the lawyer, and that's kind of what they're trying to get him on.
That's what they're trying to say.
That's what they're trying to say, but whether it actually upholds or not is a completely different story.
Let me in the courthouse for like a total of like an hour.
I think that was all it was, and then he came out, went straight over to Florida. Flew home to talk to his family and whatnot. So, I mean, there's that. Here's some pictures, of course. There's separations. There's some that, especially on that barricade, some who wanted Trump in prison, some who don't, of course, those who support him. Which, by the way, if y'all haven't seen, the political advertisements have already been up and running. There was one against Ron DeSantis paid for by the Trump campaign already. Good. So there's things coming out now.
I mean, we're only a year out.
Yeah, we are getting there.
Crazy. It's crazy that we've already had 4 years of a guy who can't. I'll just stop.
Oh, man. So there's some interesting pictures. Good. That guy, that toupee looks really good on him. Good for you. There's those who want him back again. Does that say make liberals cry again? Make liberals cry again. Oh, Lord. People are very expressive.
Have as good of a ring as MAGA, though.
It doesn't, but
like Milka.
Yeah. But that's people for you. So some interesting characters, of course, all throughout there. But what officially happens with Trump, we will keep you on the loop. There's no real big thing to talk about now. Right now, he's just being indicted, and it's a potential that he gets found guilty, that he's not guilty. This could take years. It could take a month. It could be done by tomorrow. We will never actually truly know until it releases. So until then, there's not too much more to talk about.
If I'm Trump, I'm doing everything I can to stay out of the New York jail.
Yeah.
If they couldn't keep Epstein alive.
Oh, man. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, dude. Like, he'll be suicided day one.
The minute they can.
Oh, yeah.
That is, and that's the other thing.
Those lights will be off. Those cameras would be off. And that man
Guards
would end
will be
up
falling
dead.
asleep. And,
oh, yeah.
I'm
doing everything I can to stay out of there.
No, I hear that. I don't even think Trump was officially put into handcuffs. I don't think he would, there was no like official booking of, former President
Trump. So what
Trump,
happens if the president gets indicted and then goes to jail? Does Secret Service go in there with him?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Because, I mean, imagine he goes to Rikers, right? Is Secret Service in there chilling with Trump and Rikers? Like, don't come near him.
Stay back. Yeah, because, I mean, Trump definitely... So first off, if he does get found guilty for this, of course, he will never be able to run for president again. And I think that's ultimately what they want to do.
Like guilty of misdemeanors?
It would technically be a felony charge because it involves his campaign.
You think that the felonies are going to stick?
I don't know.
I don't think the felonies are going to stick.
I mean, if they can find
if anything,
definite proof.
I think what happens is this thing gets demoted to misdemeanors. He pays a fine and goes.
Yeah, and he doesn't even get anything on his record. Honestly,
Also, the other thing is from the article, it talks about how the judge was like putting his hand up to his ear, like, I can't hear you.
Yeah, kind of thing.
Bro, that judge needs to recuse himself. He is obviously very charged.
Yeah, so that's the other thing that is concerned. Well, I could care either way. I could care less either way how this goes.
I think the judge's daughter is working. What was it? I saw that. It was like the judge's daughter is working with some Democratic thing.
Really? Something with
Yeah,
Kamala?
something with Kamala Harris.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so like that judge should recuse himself. Like,
I agree
he
with
is
that.
a special interest in this case.
Yeah, especially if you have ties with the Democratic side, and it's very politically driven. Those who say it's not politically driven obviously don't understand their subconscious bias, right? Because we all have it, unfortunately. All of us are guilty of having some sort of bias towards something, whether we know it or not. And it's not it's
like, I'm especially biased towards cookie dough ice cream.
I mean, who isn't? I love cookie dough.
See, but that's a bias. Maybe
it is a bias.
Maybe Stu likes mint.
You like mint? Okay, good man.
See, but that's what I'm saying.
Who likes mint?
That's
anything?
just a good example of like the bias. That
Hot take before we move on to the next article: mint anything besides like gum is absolutely atrocious. Like chocolate mint stuff, the worst thing in the world. And off topic, but that's besides the point. So, anyways,
anyway, Trump's not going to jail. They basically,
as of not right now.
If he doesn't go to jail, they better do everything in their power to put that man in jail and get him.
You want to know what bothers me?
Let's hear it.
Is all this talk about how he may not get a fair trial, and that just pisses me off because, I mean, you can play this with both sides, but people are going to get in there, and they already have made their mind up pretty much about what their verdict is going to be. And that just pisses me off. Why can't you just wait for the facts and to see if he's really guilty? Whether you hate the man, like the man or not. I mean...
Yeah, because like you said, people already have it written off in their minds as to whether he's guilty or not anyways.
Yeah, so... Well, I wish people would be honest.
I wish.
The other thing is, though, in a high-profile case like this, you can't get a jury of your peers that don't know anything about what's going on. It's on every news station that's
like
in America right now.
Yeah.
So here's one of the things that's hard about that, though, is that in New York is a traditionally liberal, left-leaning city.
Yep.
That DA gets to like handpick his jury.
Right.
Oh, dude, it's not going to be hard to find 11 people that hate Donald Trump in New York City.
And that's the thing. That's where this gets very difficult as to how do you make it a fair and
how
equal
is it going to be a fair trial?
I don't know. That's obviously something that would have to be a discussion. Like, how do we make this a fair trial? Because obviously a lot of this is politically motivated. And to be able to keep it as central as possible is a task that I can only imagine, somebody trying to come up with. But but I mean, ultimately, like I said, guys, Abel, afternoon, evening. Thank you for joining us, sir. Appreciate you being here. But I do just want to say, it's tough to talk about. Ultimately, we will keep up to date with what's going on there, but as of right now, Trump is not in any trouble, so we'll see what happens.
Got to wait for the facts to come out.
Wait for the facts. So, moving on. Let's talk about Evan Gershkovich. Gershkovich? Is that right?
Wall Street Journal reporter?
Yeah, Wall Street Journal reporter who was arrested by Russia for espionage. So, a couple of the key points of Evan Gershkovich is arrested on espionage charges. Russia's Federal Security Service said on Thursday. The Russian security agency accused Gershkovich of spying in the interests of the U.S. and trying to obtain classified information. And for some reason, it took me off my article. 1 second. The journal said it vehemently denies the allegations. So, Russia's top security agency has arrested a Wall Street Journal reporter on espionage charges. On Thursday, the Federal Security Service and Gershkovich, a U.S. citizen, was detained in Yekaterinburg. The FSB accused the American journalist of spying in the interests of the U.S. government and trying to obtain classified information. The agency alleged that Gershkovich was acting on the U.S. orders to collect information about the activities of one of the enterprises of the Russian military-industrial complex that constitutes a state secret. In a statement, the Wall Street Journal said it vehemently denies the allegations from FSB, adding that the newspaper seeks the immediate release of our trusted and dedicated reporter. We stand in solidarity with Evan and his family. Here's what you need to know. So who is he? He's a Wall Street Journal reporter, who covers Russia, Ukraine, and former nations of the Soviet Union. Is based out of Wall Street Journal's Moscow bureau. The FSB noted that he had accreditation from the Russian Foreign Ministry to work as a journalist in the country. He speaks fluent Russian. According to his bio, previously worked as a reporter for the Agence France Presse and the Moscow Times. He was also a news assistant at the New York Times. When was he arrested? The FSB didn't specify when exactly he was arrested. His last report from Moscow, which focused on the slowdown of Russia's economy amid Western sanctions imposed following the invasion of Ukraine last year, was published on Tuesday. According to the official Telegram channel, after a Thursday hearing, Moscow court ruled that he was behind bars pending the investigation. So there's not too much to really going into this, besides the fact that right now, he's being held due to an accusation of espionage and spying.
And if he gets convicted, he could
Russia.
be up to 20 years in prison.
And that's the thing. Right now, with what we have going on with Russia, they are clearly not happy with us because of the sanctions we put up against them, with everything going on with Ukraine. So where do we see this being fair? Just like we talked about with Donald Trump, how is this gentleman going to be put on to a fair trial? Or is he going to be put on to a fair trial? Because I would say probably not.
I would say 90% chance, 98. No, he's not going to have a fair trial.
And regardless of what the facts are, he's going to be arrested for espionage, or he's going to be guilty of espionage within Russia. Subject of the first such since Cold War. So, the arrest of this gentleman marks the first time an American reporter has been arrested on espionage charges since in Russia since Cold War. The last arrest of this kind was seen in September of 1986 when the U.S. News and World Report correspondent Nicholas Daniloff was arrested by the KGB. 20 days later, the Moscow-based journalist was released without charges in a swap for an employee of the Soviet Union's United Nations mission who had been arrested by the FBI. So, I mean, realistically, could this just be a ploy of them being able to arrest somebody for a trade again? Easily. So, what ends up happening, who knows?
But it doesn't. This guy is not going to have the pool necessary to trade somebody. Brittany Griner had a ton of political pressure behind it.
Which was stupid. I don't understand.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But we've got a Marine sitting over there in jail for no reason right now too.
Right, that's a good point. And he still hasn't been able to get released also.
Exactly. So you think a Wall Street journalist is going to get out?
Nah, for sure not.
Doubt it.
So we'll see. We'll see ultimately what happens there. But it's a very unfortunate situation to see American citizens getting held over in Russia, because again, we know the circumstances and the situation that we're a part of with Russia right now.
Sleepy Joe's going to do his best dub impersonation. Well, you do not negotiate with Well, what was I saying?
what was that again? So we'll see. We'll see ultimately what happens here as well, whether he gets released or doesn't. Just again, more things that we got to wait for the facts to come out on. Not too much we can touch up on there. So, Wall Street reporter, Wall Street journalist.
God bless you, sir.
Yeah, hopefully you're doing all right over there. Let's move on. Let's talk about the lawmakers trying to move forward with a TikTok bill and banning it. So the U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Kevin McCarthy said on Sunday lawmakers will move forward with legislation to address national security worries about TikTok, alleging China's government had access to the short video app's user data. In the United States, there are growing calls to ban TikTok, owned by a China-based company, ByteDance, or to pass bipartisan legislation to give President Joe Biden's administration legal authority to seek a ban. Devices owned by the U.S. government were recently banned from having the app installed. The House will be moving forward with legislation to protect Americans from the technological tentacles of the Chinese Communist Party, McCarthy said on Twitter. TikTok CEO Xiao Zhiqiu appeared before a U.S. House committee for about 5 hours on Thursday, and lawmakers from both parties grilled him about national security and other concerns involving the app, which has 150 million American users.
Did you see some of the questions that they were serving them up?
I have not.
Oh my gosh, some of them were like really, really stupid.
Were they?
One old guy was like, does TikTok use Wi-Fi?
What?
Oh yeah.
Oh no. Those are the questions that were
and the
being
guy was
asked?
like, if the phone is, or if the user's device is connected to the Wi-Fi, yes, it would use the Wi-Fi to,
Get into the app.
get into the internet.
Yeah.
He's like, so it does use Wi-Fi.
Oh my gosh. I did not see that,
Oh,
and I kind
God.
of don't want to.
Oh God. Some of those old heads on Senate floor and stuff like that, they got to go.
They have no idea what they're talking about anymore.
So what is this Wi-Fi?
How is it incorporated with
How
them
does-
TikTokers?
How does Wi-Fi affect me here today?
Haven't you heard of 5G before?
5G, it's military. You know what's real crazy though? Is like, okay, so China's spying on us through TikTok. I mean, I think we can
Sure.
all agree on that. Those people, when they're opening up their reports, they're like 150 million users, 120 of them are naked. Like, man, Americans really just want to see each other naked.
Yeah.
Like, that's really all they're doing.
About 100 of them
And
were
then
sitting
the
on the
other 100
toilet.
and then the 100 million of them are just making prank videos.
Yeah.
And then 100 million dance videos. What are Americans doing?
How do they have this much time?
They got so much free time.
So,
We're over here trying to take over the world. And they're over there dancing.
in
naked.
Thursday's here. In Thursday's hearing, the TikTok CEO was asked if of the app has spied on Americans at Beijing's request. Chen answered no. Again, there's not too much to talk about here. It's
Did we
kinda
really
clear
think
cut.
that the answer to that question was going to be yes?
yes, we are spying on your people.
Actually, yes. We're doing exactly what you think we're doing.
It's just right out in front of you.
Yes.
So what's cool is though we do have the actual bill. It's S686, the Restrict Act. So, restricting the emergence of security threats, the Risk Information and Communications Technology Act, or the Restrict Act. This was introduced to the Senate on 3/7 of March. So it was last month. The bill requires federal actions to identify and mitigate foreign threats to information and communication technology, products and services. It also establishes civil and criminal penalties for violations under the bill. Specifically, the Department of Commerce must identify, deter, disrupt, prevent, prohibit, investigate, and mitigate transactions involving ICT products and services in which any foreign advisory, such as China, has any interest, and two, that pose an undue and unacceptable risk to U.S. national security or the safety of U.S. persons. Additionally, Commerce must identify and refer to the president any covered holding that possesses or an undue or unacceptable risk to U.S. national security or the security and safety of U.S. persons. If the president determines that the holding possesses such a risk, the president may compel divestment of or otherwise mitigate the risk associated with the holding. Commerce may designate any foreign government or regime as a foreign adversary upon a determination that the foreign government or regime is in engage in a long-term pattern or serious instances of conduct significantly adverse to U.S. national security or the security and safety of U.S. persons, and remove such designation. Commerce must notify Congress before making or removing a designation. These actions are subject to congressional disapproval. The bill outlines enforcement mechanisms, including actions by the Department of Justice and civil and criminal penalties. So there's that. There's that bill. The Restrict Act. So
sounds like they're going after all social media.
Kind of what it sounds like, doesn't it?
It does. Which I don't know is necessarily a bad thing.
I was gonna say, I mean, social media has kind of been like
kind of the crux of the United States here as of late.
Yeah, because I mean, let's be honest, right? When you talk about social media, it has severely deteriorated the mental health of all children, I would argue. When you used to ask kids what they wanted to be when they grew up, I want to be a doctor, astronaut, this, that, the other. Now
I want to be TikTok influencer.
Literally 80% of those answers are TikTok, YouTube, influencer, like social media influencer.
I want my TikTok to have 100 million views.
So you guys are for this ban?
I'm not saying that they should ban it.
I'm not for the ban.
I'm just saying, would it be a bad thing? Not necessarily.
I just don't think it would be terrible, because then what
It looks
happens?
to me that
Parents
this
are forced to
bill-
then raise their children again.
Yeah, exactly.
This bill gives government more power.
Oh, no,
and
100%. Because then they can immediately just come in and kind of cut off whatever they want to, right? Like, by all means, will they have more power if they are able to just immediately ban social medias? Of course.
If we live in a free society and somebody was listening on TikTok all day, more power to them.
And completely fair. But again, if this does go through, you won't necessarily hear me being like, like this is a horrible
I'll be upset
thing.
about the government taking more power. That sucks.
But at the same time, I mean, with more social media presence gone in a way, I mean, it's not a bad thing. But again, he
Like
completely
forcing people
understand
to
your
interact
point.
in person again, I don't think is a bad thing, especially with that one coming up.
That's going to be a big one. So, I mean, do we have anything else to say about the TikTok ban? I mean, it's potential they ban it. It's potential they start attacking all other social medias. What actually comes of it, again, we just have to wait. Like that's the problem, is where it's all waiting game.
And the other thing is, you got to think of this right here now. This is only going to be in force or become a thing until the Android Zuckerberg throws his millions at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or billions at it. I mean, all it takes is paying off the right person, and then everybody gets what they want.
And let's be real, are they actually going to be able to pass this? Maybe the only one
it got through the House.
The only one I feel like they can actually go after is TikTok, because it's not American, like it's not owned by any sort of American company. But if you try going after Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, good luck.
Twitter's owned by a South African.
True, but he's an American citizen.
Just saying.
Fair enough, but yeah.
And Zuckerberg's definitely an Android.
That man's a lizard people. That
he
man's
is
part of the
actually
lizard people.
the king of the lizard people.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, more to come with that, of course. So we will keep up with that, and we will let you all know as we find out more information, of course. Well, please. Yeah, I mean that's the extent of what I got for like the TikTok social media thing. I'm kind of done with that topic, just because again, there's not much you can do.
I'm sending you something.
Yes, let me read this real quick. Could a bill aimed at banning TikTok impact other apps? A legal expert says. So while Congress is hoping to increase cybersecurity by banning TikTok through the Restrict Act, some are worried that it could do the opposite. In an effort to ban the social media app TikTok and its Chinese parent company from collecting American data, Congress introduced the bill, the Restrict Act, a month ago. Since then, both people and publications alike have raised concerns about the bill impacting VPNs or virtual private networks, a two-factor way to protect a user's network. National legal analyst Rory Riley Topping says these worries aren't invalid. After reading through all 55 pages of the bill, she feels the wording is vague. Even though the senators say it's not their intent to include VPNs, this has to be something that you're ready to address with the broadness of the bill. Georgia Southern information technology professor Frank Katz says he teaches an entire class on VPNs and firewalls. VPNs are an integral part of the structured security infrastructure of the United States. We reaffirmed concerns over the bill that could potentially ban them. Riley Topping said it wouldn't be the first time the government passed legislation targeted at one thing, but written so broadly that it applied to others. I think the Patriot Act is a decent analogy here. Riley Topping said in the post 9/11 atmosphere, there were a lot of concern about our national security. The Patriot Act used a broad language, and then we saw as time went on, the government used some of the provisions of the act to institute surveillance and wasn't intended when it was passed. As the bill has only been introduced, like all legislation, Riley Topping says it will undergo changes after expert testimony. Katz says concerns about cybersecurity are only growing with more than 700,000 available jobs in the field. So, I mean, yes, could it go after other bills? Of course it could. Or, I mean, other bills. Other social medias, of course it could. But it's just something we'll have to kind of wait.
Manny actually commented too.
But it's something we'll have to wait for and continue to see. So I am not seeing these comments.
Manny just posted a comment and said, question for Stu. Should a government acquire new power in a new digital age?
Good point.
The gears are turning, Manny.
Yeah, because I guess it's like as we become more digitally inept, right? Everything, I mean, is online nowadays, right? Like literally everything. Does that give the government a new ability, a new kind of power to kind of overlook that digital age and what's to become? Because cybersecurity is probably the fastest growing field in America right now. Probably. I mean, truly, because like people are very concerned about their security online, and that's completely fair.
Well, especially with things like the metaverse and like stuff like that trying to take off.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be making online digital real estate purchases and things like that. People are definitely trying to make sure that their stuff is protected.
And not only that, but you got to look at I'm kind of blanking here. Go ahead.
Stu, do you have a response for Manny?
I'm trying to make sense of what he said. It's kind of vague to me.
Should a government acquire new power in a new digital age? So I guess.
Yeah, so like give me an example.
Right. What's a way we can relate this?
Should a government have acquired new power in an atomic age?
My first thought is as long as it doesn't violate any kind of rights.
Constitutional rights,
then no, they shouldn't acquire.
Well, see, that's the scary part is where do you draw the line with constitutional rights when it relates to information online and freedom of speech and things of that nature?
Here, I got a question to kind of follow up with what Manny's saying. Should a government have acquired new powers in an atomic age when we entered the atomic age, right?
Right.
With nuclear weapons.
Things of that nature.
So governments acquired new power and new abilities to restrict those things, right? Well, arguably, the internet is more dangerous. No, not more dangerous, but it's very dangerous. It could be considered on par with a nuclear weapon, because if somebody can weaponize the internet and shut down the entire government's servers and everything else, all of a sudden we go black and everything is interconnected to the internet right now. Should the government be able to?
Well, I kind of like the way you're saying that, because it makes me think, and it is almost more dangerous than nuclear weapons, because you could, and to a sense, right?
Nuclear weapons
would literally erase
out.
Everything. Yeah, so I get that point.
You're talking about the internet could set a country back to the dark ages
easily
because of how interconnected everything is.
Yeah. I mean, if you shut down an entire country's like online capabilities, I mean,
and they don't even have the ability to.
So let's go over
disarm themselves.
What the government's job should be overseeing the internet. Like, what job do they really need to have?
That
other than like protecting threats and stuff like that.
That is a great question.
I think protecting threats is, in a way, what they're trying to accomplish here. It's just when they try to protect us against threats, they take away freedom and liberty in the process.
So how much of that freedom are you willing to give up for your
Exactly.
security?
And you expect me to sit here and think that the USA doesn't do the same thing in other countries?
Oh, of course we do.
I'm not saying we don't. I'm just saying that is what the bill looks like it's designed to do.
It's just a battle of, whether or not our cyber security is going to be better than theirs. And I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Are our hackers going to be able to beat them at their own game? So it's, I feel like this is a hard topic to discuss. I mean, it's really a gray area because you're operating in a brand new era where technology has skyrocketed above the comprehension of what humans can even understand of technology. I mean, seriously, again, with the computing power in this is greater than what was launched on the moon, right? And everybody has one.
If they're making a fuss about this, they need to repeal the Patriot Act and quit spying on American citizens.
Yeah, but then again, there's the argument that people use that, or that they use that for the good of American citizens, right? To be able to stop.
They can say anything.
I'm gonna go with Stu on this one, Dave.
They can say anything they want.
With you about the Patriot Act, bro.
Devil's advocate. If you look at it the other way, they use it to fight counterterrorism.
You can polish a turd, but so many
terrorists.
times.
I hear you.
You can slap lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. And it stinks.
And it'll eat everything but the teeth.
But here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that we're not taking into account right now. The advancements of artificial intelligence. So, just say that TikTok, we'll just use TikTok as an example because it's the one we're talking about right now.
Right.
So, say TikTok develops an AI system that is like ChatGPT on steroids, right? And then they set that loose on the United States, right? A foreign country does something like that maliciously. Should the United States government be able to shut that thing down? Because that's an attack on American people,
right?
Just in a different way, right?
That's a good question.
So that's where I'm like, okay, the government should have the authority to just, bam, knock one of these bad boys out. But with great power comes great responsibility. Thank you, Spider-Man. Because
has it been proven that China is spying on the United States through TikTok and it's a national emergency? Has that been proven?
It's owned by the CCP.
I mean, you can just take a wild guess at that, right? How do you? There is no real way of being able to say they are guilty of taking this information because it's all being filtered through.
So I'm not going to be
a Chinese company.
I feel like if they could prove it, it would be already gone.
I'm not going to be surprised either way. If they're spying on us, that doesn't surprise me. Or the USA making this up to push this kind of bill. I can view it from both sides, and both sides don't surprise me at all.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Good way of putting it. And I'm seeing Manuel come in with another comment. There's a Chinese law that requires companies in China to turn over information to the government if asked. But that Chinese law, again, is to the CCP. So, I guess so. Yeah.
And TikTok is indirectly owned by the CCP.
Yeah, ByteDance.
My issue isn't TikTok. My issue is the bill that gives them more power over the internet and regulating the internet and other social media companies. It's not the whole China and TikTok thing.
Right, but right now what they're stating is that bill is specifically targeted towards the Chinese app TikTok. They're not in a roundabout way, they're not coming out and saying, "Oh, this could also be targeted towards Facebook, Instagram, blah blah blah." Right now they're solely focusing on TikTok. Now, again, like the article that we just read said, could there be side effects or things that come out of it, kind of like the Patriot Act? The bill is very vague, but just like with the Patriot Act, will they do something later is the concern. So right now, the big focus.
So that's
is
why I
TikTok.
say no to the bill.
Well, the other thing is this: what, if the bill wasn't vague, then it would be easy to get around the bill.
Yeah, yeah.
So if the bill was very pinpoint accurate on what it was exactly trying to accomplish, then it would be so easy to just be step outside of that and make
what Manny just said. You could make that law that if TikTok wants to be in America, they have to turn over certain information. But that doesn't affect Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all these companies that are already in the USA. That doesn't give the government power over those social media companies.
What Manny said is there's a Chinese law that requires TikTok to turn over information to the Chinese government.
Or companies in China.
Or
So for
companies in China.
example, ByteDance is the parent company to TikTok. But because ByteDance is located in China, if the CCP wants that information, there's a law that they have to turn that information over. Is I think what Manny's kind of pointing.
I guess
at.
it just depends what that information is. I mean, if it's dumb stuff, then no, they shouldn't have to turn it over. But if it's like legality stuff, illegal things,
right,
then they're like being investigated.
I mean, when you're a communist party, I mean, you can quite literally tell your companies to do whatever the hell you want. So
well, the other thing is like, I mean, have you seen The Social Dilemma?
Yes.
So you've seen it?
Yes.
So I'm viewing this as from like a sense of like national security almost, because it would be so easy to attack the psyche of American citizens or just people in general using a social media tool. And I am not necessarily opposed to the government having the power to shut down one of these social medias if it were to ever become a weapon.
Right.
So I think maybe getting ahead of this problem before it happens isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
I don't necessarily like having the government have a tighter grip on the internet, but also I don't like the idea of the internet being weaponized against us.
Yeah, but I mean, unfortunately,
so it's like a double-edged sword.
Unfortunately, I feel like the internet's been weaponized the minute it was even created. You know what I mean? Like social medias have always. Now it's gotten a lot
Hold
worse.
on now. I disagree with that because I think that the internet has been a place of a lot of people just coming on and throwing information around. It's not until the rise of social medias did you really see that there are certain websites, certain functions of the internet that really just started to pull a lot of people into there and become daily users.
Facebook was probably the start of that, I would argue.
MySpace, bro. MySpace was huge.
MySpace was big, but it wasn't. It
and
didn't become as
Facebook,
big until Facebook.
No, MySpace was big before Facebook.
I was still kind of young.
Yeah, you were like a baby. What do you know? So MySpace was huge, and then Facebook was the next big thing that came out of MySpace. Tom unfortunately sold MySpace.
I miss you, Tom.
I miss you, Tom. But anyway, it wasn't until the rise of social medias that we saw the internet get pulled in certain directions, and then a ton of users roll through those. Like the biggest thing before social media was like search engines, Yahoo, Google. Like, and Google wasn't even a thing really at that point. AOL, like, and chat text, like chat
AIM
platforms, Instant Messenger, and things like that. And then social media came around, and it just all of a sudden you started seeing hundreds of millions, billions of people, hundreds of billions of people.
Yep.
No, there's only 7 billion.
Here's kind of where I stand
hundreds
on
of billions of views.
Yeah.
If the USA can prove that China is spying on us and it's a national security reason to ban it, then I might get behind it. But without the evidence or the facts, what keeps this country from saying, oh yeah, we're going to ban this because this is national security? Like, let's say it's not national security. There's no threat. But what's stopping them from just saying that it is? Just to ban something?
No, I agree with that. But the thing is anything Chinese, it's pretty easy to say, hey, this could absolutely be used against us.
Yeah,
because it's a communist country that has been notoriously stealing technology, intellectual property, and everything else that even touches its soil. That's been stealing for the last 30, 40 years.
I'm just weary about the bill.
Well,
I agree.
We'll keep track of the Restrict Act and make sure that we keep on top of that bill, because like we said, it did pass through the House. We just got to see what happens with the Senate. But let's go ahead and start
we got to
moving
roll
forward.
We still got three
other ones we want to touch up on, so we will keep track of that and we will circle back, of course. One of the biggest topics of the night as well: Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Turkey apply to join BRICS. So Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt are on course to become the latest members of BRICS International Forum Group and could submit applications next year, its president said today. All three countries have shown their interest in joining BRICS and preparing to apply for the membership. I believe this is a good step because expansion is always looked upon favorably. It will definitely bolster BRICS' global influence, she told Russian newspaper Izvestia. Their membership bids could be discussed and potentially agreed at next year's BRICS summit in South Africa with the trio already engaged in the process. It is doubtful that they will join at the same time, but she added that their membership will come very soon. Iran and Argentina applied later last month to join the bloc of emerging economies, which compromises of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, hence BRICS. The BRICS countries account for more than 40% of the global population and about a quarter of the world's gross domestic product. Also, last month, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced plans for BRICS to develop a new basket-based global reserve currency, which would pose a serious challenge to the United States. The basket is likely to contain the 5 present members' currencies: the real, ruble, rupee, renminbi, and rand, and would present an alternative to International Monetary Fund's special drawing right, SDR. The SDR is not a currency, but effectively a basket of claims on top of reserve currencies such as the US dollar, the euro, the pound, and the yen. In its most recent edition, the renminbi. Washington also fears that the decline of the dollar as the world currency, since this would mean it's losing an ability to control global financial markets. So this is kind of bad.
It's not as bad as you think.
You don't think?
No.
I hope.
Everybody said the same thing about the European Union. And the euro is based on all of the European markets, which are literally like states, right? They're all that close. And they're I guess, what is it? It's not continental, but inter-country trade, right? So here's the thing. BRICS, it does have the next 4 biggest economies or 3 biggest economies in the world.
Right.
The total of all the BRICS nations still only equals about what the USA puts out by itself.
Yeah, because that's not considering, like, we have a lot of partnership
gross domestic
with
No. Just USA gross domestic product.
Oh, wow.
Is about all those countries coming together is about the same as what the United States GDP is. So it's not that bad. Saudi Arabia it's smart for Saudi Arabia to get on there. Like, right. I wouldn't I applaud that. Because if they do have, it's just like Saudi Arabia being able to trade in euros. They've up to this point just used the dollar to trade in oil and everything else. But if you have an emerging powerhouse that has a combined might that could rival the US dollar, then having the ability to trade in both currencies just makes sense. Makes sense. The other thing is this. What you did there. The other thing is this. 3 of those countries that make up the BRICS alliance are psychotic. Let's be real.
I mean, yeah.
You have Russia, which has invaded Ukraine. They are not afraid to fight wars. They are going after whatever they feel like is theirs. You have China, which is going after the world basically at this point.
Right.
And then you have Brazil, which is like one of the most unstable governments in the world. I don't think that currency is going to make it very far. I just don't. All it's going to take is for one of those 3 to go down. Because India is an emerging market. In 10, 15 years, India could be a powerhouse, but it's not quite there yet. All it would take would be for a regime change in Brazil to a more friendly U.S., like a more U.S.-friendly regime.
Right.
And this thing loses a lot of its steam. The other thing is this. If, just say, worst-case scenario, Saudi Arabia only started accepting BRICS currency, right? That happens. What's to stop American manufacturing or American oil production from ramping up oil production and pumping the world full of oil where it just tanks their currency.
Right.
There's so many different things. The other thing is this. They're talking about tying BRICS currency to gold. The USA has more reserves of gold than all those countries put together.
Right.
Like I can see where this would cause some concern, but I think that this is going to be more like a euro than it is going to be like, oh, this is going to be the new reserve currency of the world.
The world, right.
And this is going to completely tank the U.S. economy. I just don't see that.
Right. Yeah.
Not when you have, what is it, 150 bases that surround Saudi Arabia that protect it from Iran?
Right. And well, so the other thing that I was looking at as well is a thing called MINT as well, which is Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria, and Turkey. Now, if they happen to join with BRICS, and more countries around the world started doing that, that could be a little concerning. But again, if we are still able to keep the U.S. dollar relevant within like European countries and Australia and you look at like the Norway, Sweden, that area, Scandinavian countries.
About the European Union.
I mean, yeah, if we're able to keep that, I mean, then that'll just be your two big, combating.
It could just be two powerhouse currencies.
Yeah, currencies.
And that's like a bipolar world or a multipolar world. I mean, I don't
It's better with competition, right?
That's what I was going to say. The last time the United States had competition, like real competition, was the Soviet Union. And we saw how that turned out for the world. We had more advances in, 50 years than the rest of human history combined.
Right.
Outside of like the Egyptians, because they were working with aliens that we don't know about. But, I mean, seriously.
So the only and this happened back in like 2010, so it's not like obviously new news, but Colombia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Egypt, Turkey, and South Africa are also part of BRIC as well. They were called civets. They ended up joining BRIC as well back in like 2010. So they are, I mean, they're gaining traction though, and they are getting bigger.
BRIC has been around for a while as well.
A while, from what I can tell, yeah. Because I'm doing a little research as we're talking.
But again, the thing is this. It's the biggest thing to happen would be if the Saudis stopped accepting the US dollar and only started trading. But then this is the thing. What is the BRICS currency? They don't even know what the currency is going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
There's like 5 different currencies that they're going to basket case together.
As of right now, yeah. That's how they're trying to make it happen.
Okay.
It sounds like big currency.
It sounds like they're a little ways off. It sounds like they're making moves to try to do this. But again,
it'll be time.
What happens when one of those countries just becomes a little more U.S. leaning?
Right.
And what happens when we tell Saudi Arabia that their entire economy is based on the dollar right now, and their entire safety is based on the U.S. bases
for protection from us? Yeah.
No, that protect them from Iran.
Yeah.
And we say, all right, we're out.
Pulling out.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
See you later.
Yeah.
Now, I know China's trying to usher a peace deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia, but that is a feud that has been going back to the literal beginning of time.
Yeah,
I don't think that it's getting solved by the Chinese stepping in there.
Yeah, like anytime soon.
And especially because the Chinese, when they touch anything, they try to control it. So do you really think that that's going to happen? I don't think so.
Yeah. So.
What? Oh, hold on. We got some.
It ain't no big deal. Ignore that one. Spam.
Yeah. Oh, dang! I saw a big old comment. I was like, I got excited.
Yo, somebody's trying to really jump in on this.
I was excited, but hey, the thing is everybody, like, I've talked to a lot of people about this. Obviously, there's a reason I'm so studied up on it, because I've had a lot of conversations with people about it. I think this could go a couple of different ways, but I think the biggest way that it's going to go is it's going to introduce competition for the United States, and it's going to allow us to put America first in a sense. And I hate to say it like that, because it's like, oh, you're a Trump supporter. No, I'm not. I'm not a Trump supporter.
Well, I support American made and
exactly. But that's what I'm saying.
That ain't. Yeah.
But like this could be our opportunity to actually do what Trump claims he wants to do and make America great again. in a real sense of the way, because all we have to do is we have to unleash entrepreneurs. Right? We have to take the cuffs off the entrepreneurial section of America and just let free, open minds go back to work.
Bring it back to American manufacturing.
Because, well, not even just American manufacturing. I'm talking about the entrepreneurs, the people who create the businesses, that invent the things, that do the things. Unchained entrepreneurs are going to literally obliterate anything that the Chinese can do within a matter of 10 years. And the reason why is because the Chinese government is trying to control they're trying to keep their thumb on everybody from expressing free thought and all this other stuff. When you have unchained American entrepreneurs, who knows where it's going to go?
The only problem with that is going back and looking at the corporations right now, because corporations want all the power and they want to keep it to where entrepreneurs are not able to be successful, so that
that's what I'm talking about, government regulation.
Yeah, that's where.
So you start pulling back some of that government regulation that's in the United States. You
can see some incredible things.
Oh my gosh, you lower the corporate tax rate. Oh my God, and you start bringing in American manufacturing back, because we have all these factories that are just sitting there not doing anything.
Exactly.
So all of a sudden you start ramping up American manufacturing again, and then you unleash American energy. Watch what happens.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's actually a true opportunity for America to really begin to prosper again.
Oh, I agree.
So I don't think that this is necessarily a bad thing.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it. Of course, we'll watch as BRICS continues to grow and what they plan on doing and how they go about their business. And America will keep being the powerhouse that we are, and keep being awesome.
Yeah. Hey, you know where you're hearing a lot about that BRICS?
Where's that at?
On TikTok.
Interesting.
It's almost like TikTok wants us to know about BRICS.
I like what you said though about like us in America, like when we have good ideas versus bad ideas. So when I see the government step in and say, I'm going to use, was it Idaho? Said they were going to ban electric cars. And then you have like California saying they're going to ban gas cars. So now we're going to have this, but I like what you said, because let the best idea and the best innovation win. We don't need the government banning these things. Let the best idea win. Let it compete with each other, and it'll prove itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what capitalism is. That's what a free market is. So, what we need is a strong leader, somebody who doesn't, bang porn stars and can formulate
every other
sentences.
Word. Yeah.
We need somebody who's strong, has a backbone, is willing to stand up against China, Russia, and just not even just stand up against them, but like put their foot down and say, "Listen, guys, no, this isn't going to be good." We need somebody who's strong, able to do that, and then also, as bad as this is going to say, wipe out like the top, 5 tiers of current government workers and replace them, because there is obviously an established like deep state, not to put my tin hat on here,
no, right,
but it's been, it's common knowledge that there are people in government who've been working in government for the last 30-40 years who are never elected, hold the position, never can get fired, and influence the way things that happen. So somebody needs to go in there and clean house.
When you're in court and you're asking if you can access that TikTok through that Wi-Fi of yours, that's time to get them people
Just
out.
to fact check myself, it's Wyoming that's trying to ban electric cars.
Oh, gotcha.
By 2035.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, like
just
I said,
let them compete. May the best idea win.
Like I said, and that goes back to where I was to bring this full circle, is the person that we need is somebody strong, able to do these things, and then able to roll back government regulation. Because what I think is going on right now, and why America has kind of sputtered here as of late, and I don't even know that we've actually sputtered, but it feels like we have.
Right.
Is government regulation. I think the government is over-regulating everything. And some of it's out of safety, some of it's out of a power grab, some of it's out of, whatever the case may be. But you start rolling back some government regulation and you start allowing free flow capitalism again, and watch out.
And that's another
what
thing
we
I've
can
had
do.
an issue with our current politicians is they seem to represent the corporations versus they should be representing your entrepreneurs, your middle class, your people that are actually growing this country.
Yeah.
I think Manny has put up a good argument as to why lobbying should be allowed. But I think you take the money out of politics, you have politics literally be a public service again.
I agree with that.
I think
100%.
the corporations kind of lose their grip on what's going on right now in the country. And like I said, you roll back regulations and you do make it more favorable to do business in America.
Yep.
Like, I understand that there's labor things and we're not going to be able to get past the labor. Like, American labor is expensive. It is. But instead of empowering our enemies like China and people who want to do us harm like Russia and China, why don't we look to our neighbors to the south, Mexico, whose labor is actually cheaper than China's labor is right now, and we start empowering them? If we're going to do manufacturing, let's do it in Mexico.
Not to mention how much easier it would be to get that manufacturing the product. Yeah,
it just goes right across the border.
Yeah,
like
you wouldn't have to use ships and containers. It'd be much cheaper on transportation.
Then what happens to China when American manufacturing pulls out?
Screwed.
No. I'm saying, what happens to China
when we pull out of China?
When we start pulling the manufacturing, because that's all China does. That's all they do. They
our biggest
manufacture.
importer.
They manufacture, and they just manufacture cheap plastic stuff.
Yeah.
Crap. Like, if you want something good, you don't get it from China.
No.
I mean, that's as bad. So, sorry.
No, I like it.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Back to the Fact Is podcast.
This was our Bricks Talk. No, that was awesome. So, I mean, we'll keep on top of that, making sure we go over, because, again, this is going to be something that develops over the next couple of years, and we'll continue to cover it as it goes along. So, we'll be watching that. But let's talk about how we're sending $2.6 more billion dollars over to Ukraine.
You know who could use $2.6 billion?
Me. You.
And Stu.
Yeah.
$2.6 billion to the Fact Is podcast. Let's go.
Generous donation.
Can we
Thank you, America.
start a GoFundMe for $2.6 billion? Can I get $2.6 billion? $2.6 billion. Going twice. Sold.
To the Fact Is podcast.
Fact Is podcast. $2.6 billion.
The U.S. will send Ukraine
into existence, Nave.
Yeah, right. I wish. The U.S. will send Ukraine about $500 million in ammunition and equipment, and spend more than $2 billion to buy an array of munitions, radar, and new weapons to help Kyiv counter drones in the coming months. The Pentagon said Tuesday, as Ukrainian troops gear up for a spring offensive against Russian forces. The aid to be taken from military stockpiles so it can be to the war zone quickly includes ammunition for U.S.-provided HIMARS, air defense interceptors, and artillery rounds that Ukraine is going to defend itself. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said in a statement, HIMARS are multiple rocket launchers. The package includes at least 2 new weapon systems that are designed to counter drones, specifically the Iranian-made Shahed, which Tehran has provided to Russia and has been heavily used in attacks on Ukrainian cities. The U.S. for the first time will send 9 30mm gun trucks and an undisclosed amount of ammunition for them. 10 mobile laser-guided rocket systems also developed to counter drones. Wide variety of ammunition being sent from the Pentagon includes 155mm artillery rounds for howitzers as Ukraine burns through the rounds fighting back against Russia's ground invasion.
Hold on, time out real quick.
Yep.
How do we have this information? Like, I get it. We should be auditing these things that we're sending, but we should not have it in the Associated Press
Russia
for Russia to be like,
Oh, this is
So
what we're
now
going up
gonna
against,
have
huh?
This and
They got
this.
10 laser guided rocket systems already.
Yeah, now we know what we're targeting
We got
first.
61 fuel tankers. We gotta find them and kill them. Okay.
Well, yeah, the immediate, so the immediate assistance includes anti-armor systems, small arms, heavy equipment, transport vehicles, 61 fuel tankers, and maintenance support, the Pentagon has said in a statement.
And it's not like this is like overwhelming aid here either. This is like, okay, so Russians are sitting here like, okay, target practice.
Well, he'll find you.
If you get the first radar system, we drink vodka. Like, seriously.
No, I mean, I agree with you because it's like we're kind of just giving them our list right here. The new weapons and money come as Russia has continued to bombard Ukraine with long-range missiles, and the hotly contested battle for the eastern city of Bakhmut drags on. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told the Associated Press in an exclusive interview that unless his country wins this fight,
Kinda like
Russia could begin
Voldemort.
building international support for a deal that could require...
I'm sorry. I wonder if he says that every time he launches a missile.
Every single time.
It doesn't get old. It doesn't get old.
It never will.
Every time I push, they die.
Oh, man. Russia could begin building international support for the deal that could require Ukraine to make unacceptable compromises. Zelensky said if Moscow forces take Bakhmut, President Vladimir Putin would sell this victory to the West, to his society, to China, to Iran. The latest U.S. package with its mix of short-term and long-term aid involves a wide variety of ammunition from the Pentagon stocks, 23 million rounds of small arms ammunition, and 200,000 grenades, mortars, rockets, and an array of precision-guided munitions. So it brings the total amount of U.S. security assistance to more than $35.1 billion since the Russians invaded.
I thought we were up around 100 million. Or 100 billion.
35.1, I guess.
It's over 100 billion, I'm pretty sure.
That's what this is saying.
This must be like security assistance. This must mean like military assistance.
But yeah, I mean, it does say, so it says.
And then we got like food.
It brings the
and
total amount of U.S.
economic
security assistance to Ukraine more than 35.1. So that's not including any of the help with the infrastructure, the
infrastructure,
food, any of that,
the money for the Hunter Biden laptop, the energy, Burisma,
anything
crack
like
pipes,
that.
hookers. What else is on there?
God only knows.
Oh, thanks, Hunter.
There's that. So a lot more money going to Ukraine.
Oh, and then also, I don't know if you saw what James O'Keefe just uncovered. The money that goes to Ukraine that then went to FTX, that went into Act Blue, that then got put into just regular donors' names.
I did not see that.
Oh yeah.
No wonder the Pentagon fails every single one of its audits.
No. For like Democrat, people who donate to like Democrat election stuff. Like this, he's been going around to people and he's like, old lady in New Jersey, and he's like, yeah, I donate like $5-10 every once in a while. And he was like, okay, what about $18,850? Did you donate that? And she was like, oh no, I wish I could have, but no, I definitely did not do that. And he's like, okay. And he's done that like 5 or 6 different times. Basically, what he's tracing now is money that goes to Ukraine in aid, then was coming back to FTX with Sam Bankman-Fried, which was then going to Act Blue with the Democrats. And then it was getting dispersed through random donors.
Oh,
wow.
What's that under? Because I can look it up.
James O'Keefe, Act Blue.
So this reiterates my statement as to why the Pentagon continues to fail their audits every single year. I had no idea about this.
Oh,
but anyways,
right there.
Yeah, we'll have to. Shows how Act Blue gets massive political donations from elderly, fixed income Democrats. Interesting.
Dude, that's the one I was talking about right there. That's the lady. She was like, "Oh yeah, I
save that for next week, Stuart. We're gonna dive into that one a little bit and talk about that next week.
James O'Keefe, who started Veritas.
Yeah, James is a great guy. Veritas is
Project
no longer
Veritas.
Dude, Veritas is no longer the same without him.
No. We haven't seen anything good come out of it.
We'll keep that. We're
we'll
going to go into that next week because there are some videos and stuff that we can talk.
Massive money laundering.
We'll look into that next week.
Yeah.
Because we do still have one more that we need to touch up on. But anyways, so 2.6 billion more over to Ukraine. We're still helping them. We're still providing lots of money, and we'll continue to track however much we send over to Ukraine. So there's that.
Nothing like a good money laundering pit.
Yeah, right. Let's go ahead and end this with our last article of the night, which is obviously Nashville. So Nashville, was a devastating situation for anybody who has not heard of it yet. Stu, go ahead and play that video. We'll let that ride through. So first thing I do want to say, like we were just saying here, big props to anybody who is, well, first off, thank you to all law enforcement out there. Thank you for what you do, but also to the law enforcement that responded to this situation specifically, thank you. That was incredible work. If you all want to, please look up the body cam footage. You can see where they took down the person. Took him down with 3 shots, and then an additional 3 because it looked like that individual was still reaching for that or the firearm that they used. So, fantastic work from law enforcement. The response time, the ability to track the shooter, take him down, make it to where it wasn't a threat anymore. So, good job to them. So let's just touch up on this real quick. A shooting at a Christian elementary school in Nashville left 3 children and 3 adults and the shooter dead. Police said the shooter, Audrey Hale, was armed with 2 assault-type weapons, guns, and a 9mm pistol. The weapons appear to be semi-automatic rifles manufactured by Kel-Tec and Leadstar Arms, which shouldn't matter. And a handgun by Smith & Wesson, again, shouldn't matter. The former student who shot and killed 3 children and 3 adults at a Christian elementary school in Nashville was armed with 2 assault-type weapon guns and a 9mm pistol. Audrey Hale, 28, opened fire inside the Covenant School in Nashville on Monday morning. Hale, who was a transgender, was shot dead by 2 responding police officers. The Metropolitan Nashville Police Department released photos of the 3 firearms Hale was armed with during the shooting on Twitter. I don't know why they did it on Twitter. That's weird. One of the weapons used was a Kel-Tec sub 2000 carbine rifle, foldable semi-automatic weapon the manufacturer describes as fun to shoot, which, y'all have never shot a Kel-Tec. Is a fun firearm to shoot. So to take that and to try to put that in the context of a sick individual who slaughtered people is disgusting. So I hate that they even put that in the article because, yeah, it is a fun semi-automatic rifle to shoot. None of that has anything to do with the mental health of this individual who decided to go kill children and adults in a Christian school. So let's just get that clear. Folded, it tucks away nicely in situations where space is limited, but it's quickly to deploy in situations where time is of the essence. The description of the Kel-Tec website. Again, yes, it can be a great weapon, a firearm for self-defense. There's no reason to take anything that Kel-Tec says out of context. Absolutely. Newsweek, it just kind of blew this article. I'm just going to say that right now. Another appears to be a Grunt 300 Blackout rifle, a semi-automatic rifle gun manufactured by Leadstar's Arm, while the 9mm handgun used appears to be a Smith & Wesson M&P 9 Shield. They've contacted 3 manufacturers via email for comment. I don't know, again, why you would reach out to the manufacturers. They are producing their firearms. They can't necessarily stop who it gets in the hands of. So again, horrible take there. At least 2 of the guns are believed to have been obtained legally in the Nashville area, according to Metropolitan Nashville Police Chief John Drake. A search of Hale's home resulted in the seizure of sawed-off shotgun, a second shotgun, and other unspecified evidence. Drake has said the shooting was a targeted attack, and that Hale penned a manifesto, drew a detailed map of the school, and included entry points, conducted surveillance before carrying out the massacre on Monday. The motive was not immediately clear, but Drake told NBC News the investigators believe Hale had some resentment for having go to that school. To me, it's just a mental health issue, as simple as that. The 3 children killed were identified as Evelyn Diakos, Haley Scruggs, and William Kenny, who were all 9 years old. The adults were Cynthia Peak, 61, Catherine Kuntz, 60, and Mike Hill, 61. Kuntz is listed as the school's head on its website. President Joe Biden, speaking at the White House on Monday, implored Congress again to pass a ban on certain semi-automatic weapons in response to the shooting, which will do absolutely nothing. We have to do more to stop gun violence, he said. It's ripping our communities apart, ripping the soul of this nation, ripping the... he just said the same thing again, ripping at the very soul of the nation. And we do, and we have to do more to protect our...
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but like, even in the quote for him...
They showed it repeating.
It's repeating, like, God, the guy cannot speak. I'm sorry, that's not the biggest takeaway. But
I hear what you're saying. And we have to do more to protect our schools so they aren't turned into prisons. So I call on Congress again to pass my assault weapons ban, which again will do absolutely nothing, because if somebody wants to obtain an assault-style weapon, it will obtain it. It doesn't matter if you ban them. It's about time that we begin to make some progress. So there's that.
You know what's funny?
Go ahead.
This is going to kind of try to bring a couple of different things in together here on our topics board here. I saw TikTok the other day.
Oh, no.
And it was a guy, and he was talking about Harry Potter.
Right.
He was like, you ever think that maybe like one of the like wizarding children just like went off the deep end and started like a mass spelling?
Oh, God.
And the guy was like, no, probably not. He was like, why do you think not? He was like, I don't know. What does every other student and every teacher all have that same student has? And the teachers are actually trained better than what the student would be. So he probably wouldn't even made it down the hall. He was like, oh, wands. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, doesn't it? And it was like, wait a minute, did Harry Potter just solve the debate on gun violence?
Oh,
and I was like, wait, what?
What?
That was a stretch, but I mean, it kind of made sense, but at the same time, no.
So again, I really just want to kind of go back and touch up on some things there. First off, I really do not like the way that article was presented.
No, that got you heated. I was just
that
sitting over here because I had
heated.
already read it, and I was just kind of looking at you like, ooh, I can't wait to see what happens
because
here.
it's so infuriating that you're going to go after the manufacturers of these firearms. Yes, number one, a Kel-Tec is very fun to fire. For anybody who hasn't, it is fun. It is an enjoyable
the other
thing
thing
to do.
is that the article was clearly written with anti-gun propaganda.
Yeah, like bias towards it already. Yeah,
anti-gun propaganda.
I agree with that.
I can tell.
Yeah,
Nave's getting red in the face over here.
It's infuriating, man. Like, I'm all about common sense and I'm about making sense of things, but when you are sitting here trying to somehow blame this on the manufacturer instead of going back to, again, let's just talk about this, right? If it was a white person who had Dylan Roof, I believe his name was, who shot up the church with all African Americans, that was a hate crime, right? Why is this not some sort of mental health or hate crime as a transgender who is against like religion? right? I don't understand why it's only specific to some stories and not others. This was a individual who had horrible mental health because, and let's just be honest, when you are somebody who is transgender, it's because you can't accept the reality of the gender you were given at birth. Can't accept it, so you decide to have a surgery or call yourself by the other gender. So the ability to not be able to accept who you are is in my opinion something that would be mental health, right? Something you would need to talk to a professional about to understand why you can't accept who you are. And there's something underlying there. That is just my opinion, again, completely opinionated right there, just to understand the mental health of this person and the aspect there. But anyways, that's besides the point. Then again, they started going after the manufacturers, saying that if it was the manufacturer's fault, how can the manufacturer help it? They create the firearms, they send it off to again, very restricted, whether it be gun stores or whoever they sell their product to, and then it gets to the hands of the final consumer after that. They have no way of being able to stop that firearm reaching the hands of that individual. And again, to try to attack the manufacturers themselves was just ridiculous. Let's go after the mental health of that individual and any other individual who has ever shot and killed, massacred people for no reason. That's just where I sit with it.
Well, see, and that's the thing. The argument that I agree with is that it's a mental health issue more than it is anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
But mental health, for some reason or another in this country, is something that it's like taboo.
You can't
don't
talk about it. Yep.
Don't talk about it. Don't be about it. Just ignore the problem. Yep. And I think it's just because it's a lot of people don't want to admit that something's wrong.
Yep.
And
first step.
But here's the other thing. Mental health is not the bad guy. Mental health requires compassion. Mental health requires diving into somebody and learning about that person and showing them that there is still good in the world.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that the good can be shared by them.
Right.
Whereas a gun represents bad guy.
Yeah.
We can get rid of the bad guy. Right?
What they think.
It's an object. We should be able to get rid of this object.
Yeah.
Mental health is not an object. You can't get rid of mental health.
No, it's part of every single individual,
it's
8
part of
billion
all of us.
people's conscious.
Yeah. So that's just it. I see why some people want to go after the guns because it's a less complex issue.
Right.
Whereas mental health now becomes an entire complexity of problems.
Yep.
And I think that that's why the argument to go after guns is so high, and the argument to not address the mental health side of this is so low.
You're not hitting a root cause, though. You're just sitting there trying to, because again, if you look,
Are you talking about with guns?
Yeah,
yes.
like with guns, you're not hitting the root cause.
The root cause is mental health.
Mental health, 100%.
Yeah,
yeah,
and the byproduct of that is guns.
Yeah, because I mean, when you look at, or the way I put it is like a symptom. When you look at the symptom of a root cause, yeah, firearms are used as an instrument or a tool to be able to create chaos. And that's just unfortunately the reality, but they are also used as a tool to keep peace. Again, every single president that I know of is protected by firearms. You have people who are high priority celebrities who are protected by what? Firearms, government agents, everybody.
And it's also almost every person in certain, like almost every household is protected by firearms.
Yep.
Almost, it's not just government. It's not just high-ranking officials. It's not just, it's not just corporate owners or ex-presidents or senators or anything like that. It's like a lot of people protect their houses with guns as well.
Yep.
Like a lot of people.
Yeah,
what bothers me too is like the, I guess, identity politics that comes along with like all these shootings. It's kind of what you alluded to earlier, Nate, with the church shooting. Like there's always there's always got to be some kind of identity. Like somebody's got to be white, somebody's got to be black, somebody's got to be trans. And it's like, why can't it just be an evil person, a clearly messed up person in the head? I mean, something's got to be off if you're willing to commit murder.
Yeah.
Well, not even just murder, but you're talking about kids.
Mindless slaughter.
But yeah. I just cannot stand all of like how it gets turned politically.
Yep.
And it does. They don't even wait for the dust to settle anymore.
No, they
Like,
immediately.
it used to be like the gun debate would start happening the day after, or the 2 days after, or the next week, or something like that. Like, politicians don't even wait anymore.
Nope.
They are on live TV minutes after the shooting has concluded. Like, we need a gun ban.
Exactly, and that's all they talk about, and that you're not going after the root cause. Like, I promise you, I have studied root cause analysis. I know tools, I know ways to get to it, and the root cause from everything that I've studied about this is telling me that it is mental health. It has not. You put a gun on a table and you say, go kill that person. Not gonna do it without somebody being behind that firearm.
Here you go, Nave. I would like to know. I don't have the time to do the research myself, unfortunately.
Right.
I would like to know how many of these shootings, like how many of the shooters that have been in these shootings,
Right.
had pharmaceuticals in their system. Big pharma product.
That's a great
in their
question,
system.
actually. That's a great question. So that'd be something to look
Because
into.
hold on, if it comes back to be that 100% of these shooters had pharmaceuticals in their systems, then I would say big pharma is to blame more
Yep.
so than the guns.
More so than the firearms themselves, yeah. Because then again, what is altering that mindset of that individual to allow them to do something so horrific?
Mhm.
So,
And yeah, ooh, let's open Pandora's
take.
box right here.
so
Yeah, I wish I had time to actually like do that research.
So it is a tragedy. You know, it is horrible. And just because I'm pro Second Amendment does not mean that I sit here and say, you know, like, all well. No, like, don't get me wrong. This is horrible.
No,
I wish I could prevent
It's
it.
a
I wish I
terrible,
could stop it.
terrible thing. that
But
happened.
unfortunately, there's nothing I can individually do about it except for try to educate people in understanding what that root cause is. And it's going to be mental health every time. So
In y'all's opinion, what can we do to defend our schools?
Veterans.
yep, I've argued this since like day one. There's
It made that great point. There's how many homeless veterans out there that are just striving, like begging and pleading for purpose.
Yep.
You don't think that those homeless veterans or just veterans in general would want to step up and protect the youth of the nation?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, there's roughly 200,000 public schools in the U.S., 400,000 unemployed homeless veterans that we could take, give them the mental health that they need, you know, obviously to find themselves homeless and in
Well,
their
obviously-
situations.
Obviously, hold on before we go, you know, they would have to be vetted. We should have to make sure that they are
yeah.
okay upstairs.
Oh, yeah.
And give them back a tremendous purpose that they lost when they left the military,
Serve our country.
the armed services.
Protect our children. Protect our future generation.
They joined the service to protect the country. You don't think that they would want to protect the youth of the country?
Again. Yeah. And that, but part of the problem is we're already short in law enforcement all around the U.S. I mean, law enforcement is struggling right now. You know, so to anybody who, again, if you see somebody in law enforcement or know someone, please say thank you to them because what they do is difficult and they struggle.
And they put
trying
their
to keep
lives
up
on
with
the
it.
line for like $40,000 a year.
I think what needs to happen is kind of like a
Sheesh.
public meeting with school, law enforcement, or first responders, any first responders, and parents to figure out how we can protect.
Well, you know, the thing is law enforcement responded in 4 minutes to this
Fast.
one.
Very
That's
fast.
extremely fast.
With the average response time being like 10 minutes in the U.S.
4 minutes, and they had this under control. And it's still and the person still got what, 6 people?
Yeah, but yeah, and then also got their life taken as well.
Yeah, but law enforcement took their lives, right?
Yep.
So if you don't, I mean, I don't know how you could even cut down on that time having people in the building. I mean, other than stopping the person from getting in the building.
I mean, you can't. I mean, they got there faster than what I've almost
Are
ever
you
seen.
all for like a resource officer, an armed resource
for
officer being
sure.
there?
Yeah, I mean that's
That's kind of what the veteran thing that we're talking about is. Like, instead of being resource officer, you have, that should be a career path for veterans when they get out of the military.
I agree. Something that they're pushed towards a little bit,
Or just offered.
Yeah.
Like you get out of the military, you get to go guard a school. You make $35,000-$40,000 to guard a school.
Not a bad thing.
I mean, that's what they're making in the army, is
In the
enlisted.
military as it is, yeah.
Military. I guess not just army.
Yeah.
But enlisted, they're making what, 35,000-40,000.
Probably. I'm sure all of that's gone up a little bit just
And
with
you
inflation. but not
cannot
by-
tell. I'm sorry, I disagree with you, and I will argue until I'm blue in the face, and you will not win this argument because I am a stubborn. I'm stubborn. You can't tell me we don't have the money to pay the veterans.
Oh, I know we do.
$100 billion to Ukraine.
Yeah, we have the money.
$100 billion to Ukraine.
have
We
the
don't
money.
have the money to pay for veterans to
I'm
stay
glad
and
you brought that
post
up.
at every school in America.
Right.
I'm glad you brought that up because our government is the biggest liars I've ever seen. So I'm gonna do like a two sides thing. A couple years ago, Trump wants to build a wall, right? Was that 11 billion? So government says, whether you agree with it or disagree, that's not what I'm trying to, but government says, well, how can we pay for it? Okay. And then on the another side is probably healthcare, if you want socialized medicine and everybody's, or free
How would you pay for
education, all these socialized things,
wonder.
they go, well, how are we going to pay for it? Yeah, over 100 billion to Ukraine. I think we can pay for a lot of shit in this country.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Oh, you said a bad word.
No, I mean, yeah, I 100% agree with you all. So to kind of bring this full circle again, mental health issue across the country, we understand that, and we need to severely start attacking that. Stop trying to go after the Second Amendment, because right now you are creating more controversy and issues than what is needed, and we need to start hitting the root cause. So that's kind of my wrap on the Nashville shooting and what's happened there. Again, huge tragedy. Condolences to all families and friends out there that lost an individual that day. I'm so sorry to you, but also to law enforcement everywhere, not just Nashville, but to everywhere. Thank you for what you do. Law enforcement, first responders, fire and rescue, all of you all, thank you so much for what you do. Military, thank you. Those who serve in social workers, those who do anything to help others, nurses, doctors, anybody in the healthcare field, and those who do more American manufacturing than anybody else. Thank you to all of you. You all really help this country go by, and you all don't deserve the credit that you deserve. So, and entrepreneurs as well. You all are a big part of our country as well. So thank you for driving your local communities. Farmers, thank you for putting food on the table. I mean, I can go on a list over and over of all the people that we need to start thanking every single episode.
There you go. I just did some math on it. You said there's 200,000 schools in the U.S., right?
Roughly something of that nature.
Okay, we put 4 U.S. veterans at each bus. That's 800,000. Multiply them by $45,000,
Right.
which is the average median income, right? $36 billion.
Hey, how are we going to pay for it?
Take almost a little over a quarter of what we sent to Ukraine and put that into our own economy, and we already have every school protected in the U.S.
Boom.
And that's all. And that's if you
just a
even
year?
need 4. That's if you even need 4 per school. Really, you only need 2.
No, I'd say 4.
You could. I guess
4
it
is-
depends on the size.
Hey, 4 is really. You think somebody's going in?
Not a single person.
Not a single person. You've got highly trained U.S. veterans there.
Right.
I'm not going in
No,
that
I'm not
building.
going. But you look at like
with the malintent.
You look at like our local elementary schools, though. I mean, you could have one person from one side of the building to the other in like not even 2 minutes. You know what I mean? So like that's why I feel like it'd be kind of like a ratio thing.
So, in my opinion, and I don't know this to be true, but schools have 4 major entrances most of the time:
Front door,
front door, back door,
door,
and a side door.
2
on
side
each
doors,
side.
roughly.
One at each door.
Makes sense. It does make sense.
Right?
So, yeah, I mean, you could definitely do it that way, and that right there is just showing justification on a small scale.
And it's not like they would need an AR or a rifle or
Yeah, just
anything
give them
like
a pistol. They'll be all right.
Give them a pistol.
They'll be all right.
They'll get it out and they'll double tap that person
And
coming in.
even if
faster than
that
they
doesn't
know what
solve
happened.
it all, I mean, at least we can get the conversation rolling.
Yeah.
Like, something's got to.
Not to mention the purpose. Like I said, man, could you imagine? Like, the kids need to know that person has a firearm on them.
No, and I doubt that.
And there's so many different ways to conceal carry.
Oh yeah.
They could just be like, "Oh, this is Mr. Moses who
What's his name?
served
Yeah.
in, the army and did all these things for your freedoms and the country. And
Yeah.
this is Mr. Mays over here." And I'm just using our names because I don't have names off the top of my head, but they could just be an integral part
Of
the school.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, what do you do?" "Oh, I'm just keeping it safe."
It could be that easy,
That's all. It could be that easy.
and they would never
and
even
it
see
would
the
only cost
firearm.
$36 billion.
I have a
So,
thought experiment for you guys.
Drop in the bucket.
So, what would you say to those who may watch this and say, no, you guys have it completely wrong. Just get rid of the guns. You guys are missing it. It's the guns. The guns are the issue. Ban the guns.
I would ask them to, number one, look in countries that are banned with firearms and see how many mass stabbings that they have or some other weapon. And then I would also look at them and I would say, if a bad guy with a gun, and if a criminal wants to get a hold of a firearm, whether legally or illegally, they're going to do it. What is going to stop them? A good person with a gun. I mean, that is like the only argument I can think that makes sense, right? Because again, you're not going to get rid of firearms.
No,
It's just impossible.
Hold on. I got a better way to do it. So you come at me and you say, "Oh, it's the guns, it's the guns, it's the guns." Prove it. How many guns are in America? How many firearms have been used in mass shootings? How many mass shootings were there? And how many of those guns went off by themselves? So prove it to me. Prove to me. Use actual numbers. Come at me with an actual argument here as to why it's the gun and not the person. When you can prove that to me, then I'll listen to your gun argument.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, prove to me it was the actual gun itself, like that. So there's that.
But here's the thing. I think guns actually are mass shootings or something like that. Actually claim about 30,000 people a year, which is not cool.
No, not at all.
But how many is 30,000? I mean, in the grand scheme of things. And I don't say that to be desensitized, right? But 45,000 people died from tripping and falling.
Right.
So it's not like it's a huge number as far as claiming people's lives.
But I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it is a big number. Don't get me wrong. One is too many.
Yeah. Like those 30,000
No.
people don't need to die, but
One, let me reframe that. One unjustified is too many.
yeah, fair enough.
But there are a lot of other things that need to be addressed that I don't know. I can't say they come before that, but mental health, I think,
it's
definitely
the biggest thing.
needs to be the addressed factor here.
I think that's number one thing we need to work on in this country.
I do, man. You know what? I might just try to find some time. I'm going to try to find out how many, who the shooters were and what meds they were taking.
It'd be crazy. It'd be
Because
crazy.
I would be willing to bet that more than 90% of those shooters had some kind of med
Yeah.
in their system.
Some sort of big farm.
Big
med.
pharma something.
Yep. So.
And if that's the case, then I think we need to start, directing this conversation to big pharma.
That's a good point. So,
And then
let's
the
wrap her
conversation
up.
becomes, well, how many did they kill with the jab?
Oh goodness
Oh,
gracious!
boy,
Oh, we're
that's
getting
the
into
whole
big
key
topics. That's in hat. No.
We got to get off of here.
Oh, so you all know the process. Like, comment, share, follow. That's how it goes. The more of that you all do, the more exposure that we get, and the better for us. Like, comment, share, follow. follow.
Like, comment, share, follow.
Please do that. The amount of help that it would bring to us is just beyond what you all could imagine. So please just do that for free for us, and we would greatly appreciate it. If you feel like supporting us in other ways, please visit our Patreon where you can actually subscribe to us. That would be fantastic. We would really appreciate that as well. Help us get it kind of off the ground running and being able to turn this project into more than what it is today. So thank you all for that. On top of that, again, one more time, like, comment, share, follow. Make sure you all do that for us. That is fantastic. We were on episode 118 tonight. Big old 118. That was a good episode. We really, truly enjoyed it. We had a lot to cover since we missed last week. But
that is Rogan territory right there.
This is Rogan territory. We're sitting at about an hour and
42 minutes.
Yep.
Gosh, we can't keep doing that.
So with all that being said, you all, we are going to go ahead and jump off this episode. So thank you to everybody again. Like I stated earlier, anybody who works for the public, thank you so much, because you do a lot more than what you know. And you all serve a bigger purpose than what we could ever ask. So thank you to you all, and thank you to everyone out there. Manny, Abel, thank you all for coming by tonight. Thank you for participating and talking with us, and we look forward to seeing you all next week for the 119th episode of The Fact Is. We were your hosts, Nath Moses,
and I'm Ryan Mays.
Stuart, thank you for what you do. We will see you all next Wednesday, 8 p.m. See y'all then.